Let's take a look.
Guys, the South Korea situation is crazy, okay? The president's life's absolutely ruined after one of the dumbest decisions I've seen in my life. The dude tried to pull an Emperor Palpatine, but absolutely failed miserably.
Is Palpatine the I know he's from Star Wars. I'm not sure. Did he do like overthrow the? I haven't seen the entire of Star Wars, so I'm not sure exactly what he did. But hope you guys forgive me.
Not even half an hour after he stated what he was going to do, the South Koreans all went to the streets and protested. Even though the weather was extremely cold and there was a snowstorm going on, they were not going to deal with his antics. But this wasn't even close to the craziest thing that happened throughout this incident. You had the leader of the opposing party live stream himself trying to go against the orders of the president. Okay, this was absolutely wild. What essentially happened was that the South Korean president
Slowly executed Order 66 to kill all the Jedi. Ah, gotcha.
enacted martial law, hoping to seize full, unquestionable power, mobilizing the military and seeking to disrupt the entire country.
Oh, yeah, I heard about like basically the whole president situation in Korea is like I've been reading. I think the comments. Was it the comments here? No. Maybe it was a different video, but the entire like all the presidents, basically all the presidents in Korea have been either killed. I think one or two were assassinated, and then most of the other ones were just like jailed for a very, very long time. It's been crazy. And like from what I've seen, people say that like there's a saying in Korea that's like there's two kinds of presidents. The ones that are in jail and the ones that are going to be in jail or on their way to jail. Kind of crazy. So let's see. I'm not sure if like did he like fully get overthrown, and like are they gonna have a new election or something? Or
in the end, though, he ended up completely underestimating his own citizens and made a grave miscalculation. Make no mistake, this will be in the history books of your children. So I figured we should probably talk about it. Let's do it. On December 3rd, around 10:27 p.m. South Korean time, the South Korean president, with no prior announcement or warning, declared martial law, emergency martial law, saying that he had to rein in the country because too many politicians were corrupt and working with the enemy, which is North Korea. He said he wanted to fix the country. Now, under the constitution of South Korea, the president can by himself actually declare martial law. What he was doing was fully within his rights. But for South Koreans, especially the ones from older generations, martial law was bad news no matter how you worded it. The last time a martial law was imposed was in the year of 1980. A rogue general had taken over the country and imposed martial law on it, closed down all newspapers, silenced anyone who was against him, arrested politicians, and put the country under dictatorship. Many South Koreans tried to go up against him, but unfortunately left this planet doing so, let's just say. The martial law order only ended up being lifted in 1981, after 456 days.
Wait, I was about to say, that's like more than a year. Holy wow.
And it was only in 1987 that the Sixth Republic of Korea was written and then put into place in 1988. Ever since then, it's been a democracy and there hasn't been any martial law order imposed. So what the hell led us here? How are we here today?
I thought it's usually like during like cataclysmic events, like huge riots, like uprising, coup d'etat, but that's it, right? Like super like emergency situations, but I don't know. Was the president like a little bit delulu?
Well, Yoon Suk-yeol has been the president of South Korea since 2022. But very shortly after taking office, he became very disliked by his population.
Okay.
South Koreans were seeing him as ineffective, someone who couldn't put into place impactful policies to advance the country forward. And by
that's like everyone around the world. The minute they elect someone, they're like, yeah, that was a mistake. But hopefully the next person is better.
Or his approval rating is as low as 20%. This means that 8 out of 10 South Koreans don't like him and want him out of the office. I mean, I think it's safe to say that even Kim Jong-un has a higher approval rating, and he wasn't even voted in by his population. He is deeply unpopular. This unpopularity stretches even to the National Assembly, where the party that has the majority of votes is the opposing party.
They have the Democratic Party, the People Power, Rebuilding Korea Party, and Reform, New Future, Progressive Party. Interesting.
One who is against the president. They're called the Democratic Party. So he hasn't really had much luck there either, not able to pass the bills he wants to pass. Very recently, on November 29th, 2024, The budget that the president wants to pass for 2025 was cut by $2.9 billion. This was done by the opposition party, the Democratic Party. The same party who's been trying to investigate the wife of the president multiple times now over corruption charges, and just very recently,
anyways, they're valid. Yeah, honestly,
to impeach the head of the state audit agency and 3 prosecutors involved in those scandals. So as you can see, the president has a bit of a rivalry with the Democratic Party. This led many to theorize that all these things accumulated.
Why did they even elect him then? What?
Led him to take the decision of martial law, with the budget cut being the final nail in the coffin. He saw his political career ending with shame and decided to take a huge risk, but it's a risk that stank miles away. It simply didn't smell like the best of intentions. Look, there's 2 different kinds of martial laws: emergency martial law and security martial law, okay? The most drastic one is emergency martial law, which is the one he had imposed, the same one that was used in 1980.
When the emergency one is declared, measures such as restricting the freedom of speech, publication, assembly, association, special changes to the authority of governments, of courts, or courts, and the warrant system's accordance, blah, blah, are made possible. If declaring, the president must notify National Assembly. It's been declared a total of 16 times. Yep. Last one was 88. And then, after the 60s, martial law was declared several times as a means to quell political chaos abused by the ruling party. Yep. Okay, interesting.
80. So he could essentially close any media publication he wants to, arrest any person on South Korean soil without any arrest warrant needed, impose curfews, and straight up confiscate someone's bank account if he wanted to. And the list goes on. He can do pretty much anything he wants to with no approval needed. The only thing that can stop him is the National Assembly voting to lift the martial law. That's the only threat he faces while having absolute power. Panic was starting to set in, whether you were a normal citizen, someone in the military, a police officer, it didn't matter. Something like this hadn't happened in over 40 years, and they had no warning prior. The whole thing
I feel like nothing, like, I would understand if there's some conflict, some, like, major things happening, sure. Maybe something like that would be needed for, like, a day or 2 or whatever, but, like, just out of nowhere, you just like, yep, okay, martial law, fair enough.
Unfortunately, the initial reaction in the West to this was K-pop stans being worried that their favorite K-pop groups were not going to perform anymore, because after the martial law was imposed, major entertainment companies were canceling events.
Bruh. Feels bad, man, for K-pop. It's like, yeah, it's crazy. Like, all the events and stuff, like, all of the, like, millions, and I guess not millions during the time, but, like, millions of dollars just being lost for absolutely nothing. Crazy stuff.
But hey, I guess they helped spread the word around. As the news was starting to reach the West, we received more updates from South Korea. The martial law commander was announced. It was going to be a man by the name of Park An-soo. He then proceeded to shock the world with his first announcement after taking over this position: that all activities related to the National Assembly and political parties are now banned. I think you're starting to understand why this was such a big deal, right? The only people who can stop the martial law have effectively been banned, well, from being able to stop it.
Interesting. So he's like, okay, so all the politicians are corrupt, thus no one can, like, none of the politicians can gather and first of all vote against me, but also, like, do anything? Okay.
It was very clear why the president was so secretive, why there were no prior announcements. He had announced the martial law order at 10:30 p.m. so that the National Assembly members could not make it to the National Assembly. He wanted to catch them all off guard and
10 p.m.
control while they were sleeping. All of this was confirmed when a big problem had revealed itself. The military had been mobilized to block all access to the National Assembly. The stakes at this point could not have been any higher. The South Koreans were essentially seeing
hope it has been like no casualties or nothing,
and the
right?
older generation was having
crazy.
Terrible flashbacks back to the year of 1980. But South Korean men are obligated to serve in the South Korean military through conscription, and while women are not obligated to, they can still voluntarily join. This meant that they didn't really fear the military as much as a regular person would, and they weren't just gonna back down. Even after fully understanding the situation, the opposition Democratic Party urgently summoned its members of the National Assembly. They were going to go and lift that martial law even if the entire army was standing in their way. The South Korean people were aware of these efforts, so they made their way to the National Assembly to help them. There's this clip right here that went absolutely viral of a woman holding a rifle in front of her and not giving a single shit about what would happen if it was shot. Watch.
Well, I mean, yeah. I mean, that's understandable, but like, just where is it? Yeah, I wouldn't put my hand on the end of the rifle. Sure, you can hold around it, but just in case something happens, I don't know, someone accidentally clips it, I would really, you know, it's like to lose a hand over nothing. Just hold it somewhere else, not like directly by the the barrel that kind of is gonna go pew pew. But that's just me. Yeah.
The president was not going
Crazy
against
stuff,
the
though.
opposition party here. He was going against these regular people. And he had grossly miscalculated just how strong these people were. He had sent the military, he had sent helicopters flying over the National Assembly trying to dissuade people from even approaching it. But nothing was working. The leader of the opposition party live streamed himself, sneaking into the National Assembly by hopping over a fence. Like, this is something that you don't see at all. This is crazy.
So where everyone went, like, just hop the fence and run. Don't go in the main building.
Image that really shows you how the South Korean people came together very quickly to make sure that all the parliament members get through to the National Assembly. This picture looks like a Renaissance painting. I mean, they're over here lifting the parliament member up the fence so that he can go and vote on nullifying this crazy martial law order. You truly don't see this every day. The members were able to sneak into the National Assembly and start the vote. However, the
they had a live stream too, right?
Trying to stop them. They were breaking.
This is them, right? So I just assume they started like filming as well. They brought like a film crew
and start
to do it
the
live.
vote. However, the military was still trying to stop them. They were breaking windows and trying to get to the National Assembly to stop whatever was going on because
I think
martial law,
I've seen this picture, either of, like this one or the one from the inside filming how they were breaking in the windows.
Again, the South Korean people showed
also this thing,
resilience.
the barricades.
They put up barricades
it's crazy.
from inside the National Assembly. I mean, look at this. This is
this
crazy. Look at all this furniture in front of the doors. Good luck getting through that. It's not happening unless you have a bulldozer. This is what happens when your citizens go through conscription. They were using the military's tactics against them. And thanks to their efforts, 190 members of the National Assembly were able to make it. And thanks to their efforts,
190 out of 190. Okay. Well, I guess the main part is that it's more than half, right? Or does it have to be just like more than half of the current ones that are able to be present, or is it more than half that has to be like basically over 150?
190 members of the National Assembly were able to make
it's crazy. All of them voted for yes,
vote
so that's good.
Yes, to lift the martial law order, completely defying.
Imagine breaking into the building and then just be like, nah, I don't want it. Just have a couple of notes.
190 members of the National Assembly were able to make it
crazy.
And vote yes to lift the martial law order, completely defying the president. Now, of course, this was a great moment, but it didn't mean much just yet. The president had to acknowledge this and actually order the military to leave. If he didn't, things would have gotten very complicated and he would have been accused of treason. Thankfully,
I think they're still
6
accusing him of
hours
treason,
after
no?
declaring the martial law order, he did another speech acknowledging the National Assembly's vote and completely lifting it. As soon as he did that, the soldiers started leaving the National Assembly, retreating, and getting back to their normal lives. The South Korean people pretty much won, making sure to not repeat the same events that had happened in 1980 and all the other martial laws that were abused by people who wanted to stay in power. When things started to calm down, the Democratic Party
planned to arrest
the
Assembly
military
Speaker.
planned to arrest the Assembly Speaker and party leaders under martial law, which made them review possible insurrection charges. I think it's common sense to say that if you want to arrest your political opponents, that is pretty much against what democracy stands for. That's a very serious accusation. Shortly after, the Democratic Party floor.
is the guy gonna, like, I assume he already got impeached, or like he's gonna stand out, or what?
Leader Park Chan-dae called for President Yoon to step down immediately, saying President Yoon cannot avoid the charge of treason. He must step down immediately. As this was all happening, the senior aides and secretaries of the president have started resigning in.
Imagine working your whole life to, be a politician, help people, supposedly, and then, like, you just wake up, like, you get a text at, like, 1 a.m. being like, yeah, the president decided to, kind of, sabotage his own career, and because you're associated, fuck you as well. Damn.
Droves.
That would be so sad.
This was a complete failed coup, okay? He had turned from dictator to clown in the span of like 4 hours. Even his own senior officials can't back him up anymore.
Well, no, they shouldn't. It kind of makes sense. Like, why would you, if you, first of all, you saw what's happening, and then he's also super unpopular. Plus, if you're, like, associated with him, you might also get charges, so that's why we're doing it, no?
At this point, it's almost guaranteed that he's going to get impeached, and most likely also, probably, thrown into jail. This was a massive wake-up call to South Korea because they haven't had to deal with something like this for over 40 years. Thankfully, they were able to avert the crisis, but still, one has to think, what if it did end up working? What would have happened then? But I think the funniest thing in all this is that there are people who slept early and woke up and had no idea this had happened. Protests and fights in the country with an imminent dictatorship, and are just now finding out. Like this person right here who commented on my YouTube post saying, I'm literally in Korea right now for a visit and this shit happens while I was asleep from jet lag. LMAO, my whole Korean family's hella pissed at him and calling him a clown. I saw a lot of confusion about this topic, with many people not knowing what happened, so I thought I'd make a quick video explaining it. Hope it helped. Thank you for watching until the end, and I'll see you in the next video. Love you. Mwah.
Thank you, Mujin. So I'll send you the guy's URL as well. Very nice watch. Thank you so much. Kind of cleared things up in 12 minutes, so that's good. Very interesting. Oh yeah, I was gonna say there's a bunch of things, Azuki actually, because she watches a lot of like K-pop dramas and she's into Korean stuff, like Korean culture and stuff. So she told me that there's been a bunch of stories, like random, like drama slash things happening in Korea. So I can always react to it as well. I believe one of them was actually kind of fortunately tragic. It was a boat that was full of students, and then it was. Like, I think it was a ferry crossing a lake or river or whatever else. And then something happened where the management, I guess the captain or something, they mismanaged the, basically they kind of like sunk the ship. But they told everyone to stay inside their quarters, like inside the ship instead of leaving. And unfortunately, a lot of people, like a lot of students passed away because, they were told to stay inside. And the only ones, from what I heard, that survived were the ones that actually got out, like, disobeyed the orders and got out, and they were able to survive. And then I believe there's an American ship as well that was, like, circling the boat, but they couldn't do anything because it's, like, an international issue. They anything they do, like, basically they can't do anything until the Korean government asks for help, and that never happened. So they had to, like, basically watch the ship drown, and that's really unfortunate. But yeah, that's gonna be, I guess, a story for another day.